Hello there guys, thanks as always for passing by the channel, much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. Don't forget as well please to like and share the videos. Big shout out to everyone's been doing that so far. Welcome back to another preview. It's Friday and boxing's back. Matchroom have got another show on tomorrow night and I'm excited for it. I'm going to watch it after I come back from work. Before I get on to that though, quick shout out to Kieran Smith, who is fighting tonight up in Scotland. He's a talented Scottish fighter and I really hope he gets the job done. There's a world champion in there, I know it. Alright, so Matchroom are back with Derek Chisora versus Joseph Parker. I for one cannot wait for this fight because I really like this matchup. I just think they just really, these two fighters just match really well, and I don't know why. I think personality wise they're very different. You know, I really like Derek Chisora and I think Joseph Parker is the perfect opponent for him, because I think Chisora's kind of a funny one. You know, he seems like he's been around for ages, and Joseph Parker had that loss to AJ and that loss to Dana White, and he seemed to just fall off the face of the earth. But now he's kind of trying to make his way back into the frame a bit. So I do think it will be an interesting fight. You know, Chisora has a very kind of rough and tough, rugged, aggressive style. He likes to pile on the pressure, fight on the inside, land some bombs. You know, I think Parker's gonna have his work cut out for him. You know, because Chisora, for me, is the epitome of a fighter that brings intensity. You know, he's just got, you know, just no nonsense. You know, he'll just come forward and he will just make it a phone booth fight. Whereas we know Joseph Parker, he prefers to box. You know, he prefers to kind of set up his jab, but he hasn't looked good in his recent performances. You know, and I'll get onto that a little bit later. You know, Del Boy has got a good chin as well. We know he was knocked out by Dillian White a couple of years ago, but you know, he did go 12 rounds with Usyk. David Price couldn't do anything. Spilka didn't land anything clean on him. He took no damage from either of them, so he's still got a lot going for him despite his age. You know, I think Chisora's what, 36, 37 now, but he's still got a lot going for him. You know, this is why I like Chisora a lot. I like his personality, I like his aggressive style, and I love that he has several losses on his resume. He's got something like 10 losses on his resume, but he is still a pay-per-view star due to his popularity. That's what boxing needs more of. You know, I really don't like this post-Floyd world of boxing where, you know, fighters care so much about losing their zeros. You know, they're just too worried about it. You know, that's what leads to fighters going stale. You know, they'll have 0 losses on their resume, but they haven't really fought anyone. You know, a couple of good examples for Terence Crawford and Demetrius Andrade. You know, 2 undefeated world champions with just really poor records. You know, and as a result, no one's talking about them. You know, all the other guys in their division are just not paying any attention. So this is why I like Chisora. 10 losses on his record, but still gets to be a main event at a Saturday night Matchroom card at the O2 Arena. Love it. I want boxing to be more like that, more like the UFC, where losses don't determine a fighter's quality. It's, you know, what it used to be like that back in the day in boxing, but for now, like I said, because Floyd and, you know, used to speak so much about his kind of and being undefeated, fighters are too afraid of losing there, so they don't take the risk. Chisora's the opposite. He gets a big fight, he takes it. He just goes with it. Very likeable fighter. Parker, on the other hand, is unusual for me. I like him a lot, and he was certainly one. When he was world champion, I thought a lot of him. I liked his style. He was young, you know, but I think he's too nice. Like, I get that not everybody can be Conor McGregor, you know, or Tyson Fury or Michael Bisping and kind of talk and sell themselves. Some people are, you know, and Chisora's one of them where he's just a humble guy and he fights. But I would like to see more of that kind of, you know, like a bit more fighting talk, a bit more aggression. You know, that's what you see from a guy like Chisora. He's a very likeable lad, very friendly. But when it comes to fight week, he turns it on like that. He changes completely. He puts on his game face. He starts talking a bit of smack. He brings the fighting kind of attitude. He gets in the face of his opponent. His fighting personality comes out. It's business as usual. But when he, you know, as soon as the fight ends, he's just back to normal Chisora. So very interesting pair, and I love this fight. I think they had dinner together like last night, which is weird, but that's the type of lads these are. They're friendly, they're professional. You know, they're not just saying nasty stuff, they're saying nasty stuff. But I would like to see the bit more of the kind of like, going at each other in the hopefully at the weigh-in. Looking at the fight itself, this is an interesting one to call because both fighters are not world level. Chisora is European level, probably at this point, and Parker is more fringe world level. Is he a top 10 heavyweight in the world? Debatable. But the level of opposition is interesting because I think actually that Chisora's faced better opponents over the past couple of years. Because if you look at the last 4 fights that Del Boy's had, Alexander Usyk, David Price, Spilka, and Sinad Gashi. So you got a couple of kind of gimme fights on there in Gashi and Spilka. David Price, he's European level, certainly can bang. David Price has got a heck of a right hand on him, and Alexander Usyk is elite world level fighter. I know he's a heavyweight now, not the kind of monster he was at cruiserweight, but he's still, a world class fighter. Parker, on the other hand, I mean, that fight against Junior Farr in February was atrocious. It was a bit of a stinker, really. And then he faced, that was a year out of the ring against Shondell Winters. He faced a year ago. Then Alex Lepay and Alexander Flores. I mean, it's pretty poor. It's just, if I had to compare the past 4 performances alone, I would go with Del Boy. I would definitely go with Del Boy. I just think, he's just had a better opposition. So I'm actually going to side with Chisora on this one. Not just because I want him to win, because I like Del Boy a lot, but because I think we've seen the highest that Parker can go in terms of levels. I know that Parker is younger and fresher and probably the better boxer. But he has disappointed me in all of his recent performances. The AJ performance, for example, was a bit underwhelming. The Dylan White performance, he still clearly had enough in the tank in the last round, to knock down Dylan White. It's like, if he'd been like that earlier in the fight, he's winning that. And that fight against Junior Farr a couple of months ago was a stinker. That fight was so boring. Parker's best win was probably Hughie Fury. And that's the thing. One thing you cannot take away from Chisora is his heart and his grit and his determination. Because I think he won the first fight against Dylan White, and in the second fight he was up on the judges' scorecard until he got knocked out. So if he brings that intensity here, he can make things very tough for Parker. And Parker doesn't do too well under pressure. And also, like I said, he's not as good as I kind of expected him to be. So I think it will go 12 rounds. Both these guys have got strong chins, so I'm not expecting a KO, but there could be a couple of knockdowns here and there. I think if Chisora can box well, like he did the second time against White, throw that overhand right a couple of times, which he loves, maybe get a knockdown or 2, I think he wins this fight. So I'm actually going to go with Del Boy to win by decision, and I really hope he does. Looking at the undercard, actually, the undercard's not bad. You got Katie Taylor versus Natasha Jonas. That should be a good scrap. That's a great fight for Katie Taylor. Jonas is no slouch either. She's certainly dangerous, but I think Katie Taylor wins that one. I like Katie Taylor a lot as well. I'm a big fan of hers. Dimitri Bivol is on this undercard somehow. This is a guy who I genuinely didn't know, Richards. Interesting outing for Bivol, but to be honest, it's probably just something to keep him warm for now. Just because I think he's got his eye on Canelo coming back to 175 or the Bearded BF fight. Which would both be good in my eyes. Eubank Jr. versus Morrison. Very poor opposition for Eubank Jr. to be honest. After all his talking about Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo, I think that opposition is very poor. Didn't even know the guy. I had to go on BoxRec. Tennyson versus Strathorn, a good little scrap. And plus we're getting another fight between Campbell Hatton and the return of Scotty Fitzgerald. Neither of their opponents have been announced yet, so they're not going to be too great, but it's still TBA on the Matchroom website, so not great. But overall, a good little card from Matchroom. I like the main event a lot, and I think they've got a couple of good fights on the undercard, mainly the Katie Taylor fight. So it's okay. It'll be interesting to see how Chisora and Parker get along, but I am going to lean towards Chisora to get the win. And then maybe someday, who knows, he could try to get further into that top 15, top 10. And then hopefully someday we can see the AJ versus Fury fight getting announced, because what's happened to that? Seems to be dead in the water. But anyway, guys, enjoy the fight, and I will see you all soon. Peace.